up, everybody? Wes Hawkins here, joined alongside Mike Spofford. Packers preview presented by Microsoft Surface. Here to preview the Green Bay Packers hosting the Detroit Lions, a pivotal Week 9 game here at Lambeau Field between the 6-1 Detroit Lions and 6-2 Green Bay Packers. Mike and I will be here for the next 15 to 20 minutes answering all of your questions on X, Facebook, and YouTube. But before, as always, we jump into those questions, we do have the Packers injury report. Michael, moments ago, we found out the Green Bay Packers, 4 players will be questionable, 1 doubtful, 1 ruled out. Your 4 questionable players are Jair Alexander, Corey Ballantyne, Josh Jacobs, and obviously Jordan Love, whom Matt LaFleur had mentioned at the podium was actually, he had already mentioned he was a limited participant today, was going to be questionable for this one. Josh Myers is doubtful with the wrist injury, and we do know that Evan Williams, Packers' very talented rookie 4th-round pick, is out for this one. Some big names for the Green Bay Packers on that side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you wonder exactly where the Packers are going to be in their secondary with Evan Williams out, Jair Alexander questionable. It's a good sign, I guess, that Alexander is at least questionable when he hasn't practiced all week long. So the fact that he still has a chance to play is good to hear. But yeah, the Packers are not going to be at full strength in their defensive backfield against the highest scoring and most explosive offense in the NFL.
And the Detroit Lions side of things, pretty straightforward for the most part. We do know Malcolm Rodriguez and also Josh Pascal is out. That actually is another big hit on the defensive line for the Lions. Mm-hmm. Very deep at linebacker, very deep in the secondary, but they've taken some huge hits on the defensive front. Still one of the better run-defending teams in the National Football League, too, but that is something to take note of here as they kind of navigate their own side of things. There were several people on this thing, but again, only 3 out, 2 doubtful. Yeah, that's kind of what it is for the Lions.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see exactly how things shape up with their defensive front in this game, because since they lost Hutchinson a few weeks back, they have had to dial up some more blitzes and whatnot to get pressure on the quarterback. They may be comfortable doing that if Jordan Love is playing and maybe not 100% mobile because of the groin injury. But by the same token, anytime you blitz, there's a risk. There's a risk of a big play on the other end because you're leaving that second level and the third level vulnerable with just fewer numbers of defenders. So going to be an interesting chess match to see how this shakes out.
Mike and I, again, this game, 3:25 p.m. Central Start Time on Fox between the Packers and Lions. I'm going to start with this one. Again, you can submit your questions on X, Facebook, and YouTube. This was an observation from Grab the Net on X saying we need to win this week. It doesn't matter who is at quarterback for us. That is probably the million-dollar question now. Jordan Love sat out of Wednesday's practiced in a limited basis in pads on Thursday, was back out there today. Him, Malik Willis, a lot for the Packers this side here in the next 48 hours.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and we probably won't know for sure until that 90 minutes before kickoff when the inactives for the game are announced. But what I sense with the Packers in the locker room, especially the guys on the offensive side, they're confident in what they can do, whether Jordan Love is the quarterback or Malik Willis, right. So whatever the ultimate decision is, I don't think there's going to be anybody that flinches in that locker room. It's like, hey, they know what's at stake. They know this is a big game. They know they have to play well. You can't afford to make mistakes against these guys, no matter which quarterback it is. So everybody just zeroes in that much more on their job, and they're not going to be able to control who is the quarterback, and that's a decision we'll have to wait on.
Zach Gonzalez on YouTube. Coffee at 3:30 p.m. Zach, coffee at any hour of the day with me, my man. It could be 3 a.m. We're still rocking with the caffeine. I think I've completely numbed my system to caffeine. I can drink coffee at 11 o'clock at night and fall asleep a half an hour later. I'm just completely shot. All right, to the actual Packer questions. Good one here from Jacob Miller or Miller on YouTube. Could we possibly see Ketan Oladapo this Sunday, and what would you like to see from him if he does make his debut? It's interesting you point that out because we already know Evan Williams is not playing in this game. That means likely Javon Bullard on the back end alongside Xavier McKinney. You still have some flexibility there. Zane Anderson played a few snaps actually in recent weeks as well. But Oladapo is a guy that I think when you look at the special team side of things could potentially get that call up. Mm-hmm. Not exactly sure where things stand, to be perfectly honest with you. Like with Robert Rochelle, he's had some elevations. He was on the roster. He got cut. So I don't know if that resets it or where he's at. So I don't know exactly if Rochelle is able to be elevated or not on Saturday. If Brian Gutekunst is watching this and wants to text me, feel free. I'd be curious to figure that out because I've had a really hard time understanding how those 3 elevation rules work in the post-COVID era.
Yeah.
But that being said, Oladapo's a guy that he unfortunately had some injury setbacks there, had to miss most of the offseason program with the toe. Very talented young man, though. And when you actually go back to the tape, back during the draft, they were actually saying he was the one that was the most traditional of all these guys as far as the safety is concerned, and certainly could be a factor on Rich Bisaccia's special teams as well.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. You mentioned it as far as the defense. We've seen Zane Anderson slide in there in certain sub-packages just here and there for a snap with Corey Ballentine being questionable for this game. I mean, he's a guy that we've seen be the 6th defensive back when the Packers go to dime. Yeah. So if you don't have Williams, if you don't have Alexander, you don't have Ballentine, and then you do want to go to a dime package, who all is going to be out there? That's really kind of an unknown here. And maybe they won't go that route. They won't go with a dime, and they'll stick with different variations of nickel and whatnot, depending on the situation. So a lot of unknown in that regard in this game, just in terms of the packages and who's going to be up and who's going to be down.
Do you guys know when the last time, this question is from Jeremy Hadler, by the way, on YouTube. Do you guys know the last time the Packers swept an AFC division in the regular season? I don't. Did you look that up this week at all?
I thought I saw.
It definitely happened during the Rodgers era. I mean,
no, and I think it's happened in the LaFleur era as well. I want to say that in 2021 the Packers swept the AFC North.
Yes.
Ravens, Bengals,
that sounds right.
Browns, and Steelers. The Packers win all 4 of those games in 2021, or was it 2020 or 2021? Now I can't remember which year it was.
Kind of blurs together.
But I believe
I had to get tested.
I believe it was in the Matt LaFleur era, and the Packers swept the 4 games against the AFC North. That was the year that Tyler Huntley played quarterback instead of Lamar Jackson when the Packers played the Ravens, and it was the crazy field goal game between Crosby and McPherson in Cincinnati with the overtime and all the misses, and then the Packers won that game. They swept the AFC North that year.
Joe, Rashawn Gary, need him to be a nightmare to Goff. He was a nightmare to Goff last Thanksgiving is how the team won. Goff had multiple fumbles and picks because Gary was Goff's neighbor in the backfield. Need a big game out of him here from Joe on YouTube. There's a reason why yesterday was my Packers Insider Inbox main photo. I mean, that game, and actually I had talked to Rashawn on Tuesday for something I did for our premium seating folks, a little bit of a speaking engagement. We were reflecting on that game, just what that represented, not only in his past and the fact that was his big comeback after everything that happened a year ago at that same field, and him feeling kind of awkward about it, going back and unsure, and then suddenly he has 3 sacks and 2 forced fumbles in one of the best pass rushing games by anyone in the last 15 years. Certainly, if you can get that type of production against arguably one of the better lines in the the NFL, it would go a long way for the Packers in this one.
Yeah, and it's not just one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. It's also a quarterback who is just red hot right now. Jared Goff is tearing up any defense that he faces. The incomplete passes are way down. The touchdown passes are way up. And I don't know if anybody's figured out exactly, whether you can come after him with blitzes or, is he getting the ball out quick enough to beat those? You said it, though. I mean, last year on Thanksgiving, Jared Goff was not comfortable against this Packers defensive front, and particularly Rashawn Gary in that game. Whatever it takes to make him uncomfortable, to disrupt his rhythm, to get him out of the rhythm he's in and the hot streak that he's been on, the Packers have got to find a way.
Big Ben Benji on YouTube, the importance of the backup in Eric Wilson. Well, fortunately for the Packers, with that injury report, and Matt LaFleur forecasted this on Wednesday with Quay Walker advancing and progressing out of the concussion protocol. He's back. He's going to start on Sunday. But I think this week, again, proved what the value is in having someone like Eric Wilson on your football team. In addition to the fact that he knows his assignment, he knows how to communicate, he doesn't need all the practice reps to be able to fill that role, he actually played just incredibly well. And when you look at the Packers' depth at inside linebacker, there's a lot of years I covered this team, Michael, where it was you had 1A and 1B, and then if something went awry there, you weren't sure what the next step was going to be.
Right.
The Packers can go so many different directions with this group. In addition to the fact with these 3 veterans you already have, you have now the NFC Defensive Player of the Week in Edgerrin Cooper kind of rising to the occasion as well. And every single week it seems like Cooper is sitting here with 7, 8 tackles on like 30 snaps and making his presence felt. But Again, I think you have to tip your cap to Wilson. The fact that the Packers were able to navigate the past, 7 quarters pretty much, with a backup at the Mike position and really no big communication hiccups. In addition to the fact he played really well, being the guy that communicates all that stuff from Jeff Hafley, you can't say enough about the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you said it. No, to have no communication hiccups whatsoever, over these last couple of games with Wilson stepping into that role, wearing the green dot. The Packers haven't had the alignment assignment type issues that can crop up when you're having to make changes with regard to the whole communication process. So definitely hats off to Eric Wilson, and yeah, he's still making plays out there too.
Yeah, and another point on YouTube, this you don't have to answer this, but Lamb's Field, I think is what that stands for. The defensive line needs to be dominant so Goff doesn't chew up the secondary. 3 out of 4 passes Goff is completing right now.
Yeah.
And as Matt LaFleur said, he's playing the position as well as anybody in the league right now. And you heard it, some of the assistant coaches that talked about it the last few days too, Jeff Hafley among them. You have to be able to pressure him. You can't let him go to work in that regard. Old friend Rob Hernandez, whom both of us know, go long back.
Oh, wow.
A long way back with. What happened to the other Spoff and Wes? we got rid of them, Rob. There is no imitating Wes and Spoff in this building. If that happens, we got to make changes. So you'll never see that again. No, I mean, Haley and Kristen Shan, they did a tremendous job giving their best impersonations of us. Okay, MM10-12. I think the offense leans on the defense heavy Sunday afternoon, but do you guys think Malik has progressed or shown the coaches enough to lighten the reins passing-wise? I think he could have a breakout day. He has the arm to do it. He has the makeup I think you look for in a starting quarterback. Everything I've said for the last 5 years about Jordan Love and his disposition and how he carries himself and the cool, calm, and collected demeanor, Malik Willis has all of that as well. I don't know what the line is between trying to make sure the offense is manageable for a backup quarterback and allowing it to kind of grow with somebody else. I don't know. That's a Matt LaFleur and Tom Clements and Adam Stenavich question. But I will say this. Every single snap and every single rep that Willis takes benefits him in terms of being able to build that bank.
Yeah.
And he even talked about it this week at his locker. I mean, one of the things he felt kind of, not necessarily, not to put words in his mouth, but he talked about the issues he went through in Tennessee was he just didn't get reps.
Yeah.
He's gotten reps here. Even when he wasn't starting, he got reps, and he's really maximized the man. So what the answer is to that question, I don't know if I necessarily know. But I do know this. When Malik Willis has been in there, I think Matt LaFleur, the coaches, the offensive players, the other 10 guys on the field, they have done an immaculate job of being able to allow him to make plays.
Yeah.
And when all else fails, you have his speed too. That is the perfect makeup for a backup and potentially a starting quarterback again in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think where Malik Willis is at right now is if he does have to play on Sunday, he's in a very different place than he was back in week 2 when he had, been in Green Bay literally less than 3 weeks, and suddenly he has to step out on the field at Lambeau and start a game and navigate all of that. He knows so much more of the offense now. He's gotten so much more work, not only with regard to the X's and O's, but with his teammates and running the plays. And, a day like Wednesday, for example, this week where Jordan Love was not back at practice yet. So Malik Willis was QB1 for all of Wednesday at practice, and though, as you say, that's what builds the bank. That's what these guys then rely on, whether or not their number is called, but all of that experience on the practice field, and then obviously in Willis's case on the game field as well, really starts to add up.
Olivia Grover from La Crosse, Wisconsin, and on Facebook. Which player are you guys most excited to watch play this Sunday?
Which player? Wow. Well, I
can already tell you mine if you want me to start.
We talked about one already in Rashawn Gary, just because that Thanksgiving game last year was definitely a treat to watch. I'd love to see anything close to a repeat of that. But no, honestly, I'm looking forward to watching Josh Jacobs. I absolutely love watching this guy run the football. He's a different type of back than the Packers have had here in terms of that workhorse guy who's got the size, but also has the acceleration and the speed. As I've said many times, his footwork and vision is really, really special. And this is a tough task because Detroit has done pretty darn good against the run. But again, you wonder with Detroit's defense, okay, is their ranking in run defense because teams have been so far behind and then they haven't been able to run the ball. So if the Packers can get something established, then how big an impact can a guy like Jacobs have on this game? I'm very interested to see.
Thank you to Duke. Our boss had mentioned, yes, we won all 4 of those games in 2021.
It was 21.
And it was the last time they did it. So obviously it went a long way for the Packers in that season. Couple more minutes. He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hockwitz. We thank you, as always, for joining us on Packers Preview, brought to you by Microsoft Surface.
Who's your guy for Olivia's question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got so distracted because I wanted to be correct. Mike, I'm glad you asked who my guy is for Olivia's question. Because this Sunday, the Green Bay Packers, 50s uniforms, by the way.
The 50s classics.
On Sunday, bringing those back. And you know who my player is? You might have already edited an Insider Inbox, so you know who my player is. My player is on the cover in a 3-headed cover that we have, and that player is Christian Watson. He's on the right. And I say Christian Watson, my big prediction in this game. Last year in Detroit, 5 catches, 94 yards, 1 touchdown. I say he does 6 yards better on Sunday. That is my prediction. I think he gets in the end zone. I think Christian Watson, regardless of who's at quarterback, I feel like he's due. I feel like that time is coming. I'm excited to watch him. He's a difference maker. Can also threaten that back end too, being able to maybe take away some of the things that the Lions want to do with that secondary, that very powerful safety tandem that they have. But our game program also featuring Keyshawn Nixon, the returning Quay Walker. You can find that at the game on Sunday, the Packers Game Day program. What a seamless transition I was able to do there, showing the wonderful work of our friends over at Game Day Sports Marketing, Tim Chapman, and the very talented Nicole Tim. Okay, last couple ones here, and then we are going to leave. Rick Ramos. Hey, guys, I just wanted to say that I saw you guys at the Packers LA Rams pep rally, and you guys, too, you do really good work, so keep that up. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Okay, let's see here. Let's go to, I don't understand that question. Okay, you can't stop what's coming on YouTube. Keys to the game. I have it as limiting penalties, no turnovers on offense, and pressure, and stop the run on defense. What do you think, Mike?
The one that jumps out at me is the one about the no turnovers, because the Packers have won 4 games in a row, so that's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
But the Packers have gone 5 consecutive games now without having a turnover-free game on offense/special teams. Packers need to get a 0 offensively and on special teams in the turnover column. Do not turn the ball over against these guys, because it's going to be very difficult to take it away from them because the Lions don't turn the ball over much. So you need to at least have a stalemate in the turnover category, 0-0, in my opinion.
I 100% agree with you. I also think the Lions are due. And I think it is interesting. I don't want to telegraph one of the questions that's coming up, but we've talked about it a lot the last 2 days. This is the first game outdoors that the Lions will have played this season.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it potentially will be rainy and kind of wet and colder. I think those are things that could definitely help the Packers. One thing to keep an eye on, and hopefully it is nothing, but the Packers still did go with Josh Jacobs being questionable in this. He did express a lot of optimism that he will play. Thursday and Friday practice limited basis on both days. I don't think anything has changed on that front, but the Packers are going to be cautious there. And if that is the case, then maybe Chris Brooks a little bit gets involved, even if Jacobs is still out there. Whoever is running the football, I think you got to win that battle. I think you have to force the Detroit Lions to move a safety into the box. And as I also mentioned, not to give any away hints as far as our one last look, or your one last look, our final thoughts video tomorrow, I really think you got to win the red zone. I think the Packers got to punch when they get in there. You have to get 6 points. If it happens that the Lions do, you have to prevent them from getting in there. I think that's going to be really critical. It was a big key to victory for Tampa Bay earlier this season.
Yeah.
Tom Grassi, we'll take these the last 2 questions. Tom Grassi, I don't know what your Prussian history knowledge is, but
my Prussian
which
history?
18th century Prussian ruler would you compare Jordan Love to? Do you want your options?
Please.
Frederick I, the mercenary king. Frederick William I, the soldier king. Frederick II, the Great. Frederick William II. Frederick William III.
I like the Soldier King.
Isn't that a great moniker?
That's
That
a
sounds
good
like
one.
something that Marvel would have picked up already for one of their.
The Soldier King.
Got the Secret Wars coming up, like the Soldier King.
Yeah.
I like the Mercenary King. Hopefully that's a good comparison. Tom, I hope I answered your question well. Okay. This is a good one. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but do you think the rain will benefit the Packers this game or not with the Lions being a dome team? What do you think about that?
I mean, you would think the rain conditions like that would have an impact on explosive plays. It won't be as easy to take big chunks of yardage. And now that's been something that both of these teams have done. Both Detroit and Green Bay have been good at generating explosive plays on offense. I do think the Packers need to limit Detroit's explosive plays as much as possible, make them have to grind out drives, as you said, when they get into the red zone then to get the stops and make them kick field goals. So I think in that regard, yeah, the weather could work to Green Bay's advantage.
Tom Grossi said, thank you, longtime listener. Thank you, Tom. He also said, Spoff, you are so wise. So there's that regard.
Thanks, Tom.
Jeffrey Nelson, sounds like Josh Myers will not play. How does that change the O-line? Man, I got to tell you something quick. I just got to put this out there on the record. I love Josh Myers. He is one of the all-time great guys. Packers have had some incredible centers. Corey Linsley among them.
Scotty Wells, Mike Flanagan.
Good players. I don't know Mike Flanagan, but I mean.
They've all been great dudes.
Great dudes. Position. Josh Myers is one of. I was reflecting on this past week with Rob Domofsky. I don't know if you remember this when Josh got kind of banged up. I think it was his rookie year. He had some weird stuff happen with his knee, and I remember him telling the media, he's like, "Hey, listen, I don't want to get into all of it this year, but when the season's over, we can talk about it." Some guys say that and then they just move on. I don't want to talk about it. I remember at the end of that season, Josh basically stopped short of just giving us the X-rays as far as everything that he dealt with and completely laid everything on the table. I felt so bad for this dude listening to him in his locker, and he handled it so well this week, hearing what he's dealing with this wrist injury and what that's requiring of him, how he's clubbed it up, bandaged it up before. He is doubtful for this one, but I got to say, man, the guy does everything right. He is a total professional, and sometimes with our content and our commentary, we don't get those opportunities to say this type of stuff.
Yeah.
I want to mention that because Josh Myers is going to go down as an all-timer here. Unfortunately for the Packers, unfortunately for him, he is doubtful for this game. If he can't go, a lot of different ways the Packers could go. We do know that Elton Jenkins 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago had popped in there when he was injured the first time. Maybe that's the direction they go, but either way, that is one domino that definitely hurts Green Bay not having number 71 out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like he was really gutting it out last week in Jacksonville with the wrist injury, and the fact that he was on the injury report with that injury last week, then he was able to play. Now he's doubtful for this week. So something happened during that game where, playing with it, it got worse. It doesn't feel as good this week as it did. Yeah, between players and that kind of thing. My best guess, and this is just a guess, but based on the whole philosophy of getting the best 5 offensive linemen on the field, my guess would be if Myers can't go, that Elton Jenkins would play center, Sean Ryan would flip over from right guard over to left guard, and Jordan Morgan would slide in at right guard. I think that is the group that the Packers would go with on the interior. If it came to that, your next option potentially, if they don't go that way, is maybe the rookie Jacob Monk would play center, and everybody else kind of stays where they are. But based on what we've seen with the rotation so far this year, and the fact that Monk is a rookie who hasn't played yet this year, I would think that that's sort of like plan B, and plan A would be to stick with the guys who have been playing.
Mike, we thank you for that astute analysis. We thank everybody for joining us once again for another edition of Packers Preview. Like I always like to say, there is tons of content up on Packers.com and the Packers app. In addition to our stories this week, you covered obviously the quarterbacks, your One Last Look column tomorrow. I wrote on Chris Brooks and kind of the true professional that he's been here in the 2 months in Green Bay so far, and kind of coming out of nowhere to once again lift this Packers backfield and providing a really stable third down option in terms of the back, sort of that traditional Tony Fisher look. I also want to mention our social media department, our website, our broadcast folks did a tremendous job with the Halloween content this week. If you didn't catch it already, the haunted house video of Eric Stokes, National Treasure, and Edrin Cooper, those guys going through that, it made for a really good laugh and tremendous stuff.
The whole plant spook thing too, that's out there. And, good stuff.
Doris Pringle said, "Can the cameraman zoom in on Mike?" And he does his wink to the camera to start a new tradition. Thank you, I love you. We don't have to do that. Oh, Tyler's lifting his hands right away. It's all this guy right here. He's actually, I think, zooming in on you too. Come on, give the people what they want.
I just did.
Do it again. Do it again. All right, let's get out of here. Thank you guys, as always, for checking us out. For Mike, I'm Wes. Until next time, we'll see you later.